So, you want a GT86, BRZ or FRS? This video has 5 reasons why people don't like these cars. Now, first of all, straight off the bat, we have that. That is a problem. People don't like these engines in this car, and that's because they're slow and also unreliable, but I'll get onto that in a moment. These cars come from factory equipped with a whopping 2 litre boxer engine, which produces an amazing 200 brake horsepower and roughly 151 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, for a car of this age, those are low numbers, and that is one reason people do not like these cars, is because they are slow. They are slow cars, especially in a straight line. And yes, they sound good, they look good, but they are not quick. Now, you can buy supercharger kits and turbocharging kits for these cars, which will bump those numbers up to about 300, but that will set you back 5 to 6 grand, which for some people, and this is the way some people will see it, is the same sort of money you could go out and buy a 350Z, which comes with about 300 brake horsepower as standard anyway. Now, don't get me wrong, if you have got deep pockets, you can spend a lot of money on these cars and you can make them very powerful cars. You can get these upwards of 700 brake horsepower, but you will need to spend a pretty penny to get there, which after spending 10 to 15 grand on a car, most people don't want to do that, and that's fair enough. So that's problem 1 out of the way. The second one brings us to the interior, and basically it's because a lot of it is pretty outdated, especially for its time. You'll have to excuse all the dust, but this radio is terrible. I'm sorry, but it is terrible. I'll show you how it looks. See, it comes on, it brings up a Toyota logo. That's very nice. I like that. Oh. It's very nice. I like that. But look at this. Turn it on. And this is pretty much what you get. And it just seems terrible. You have touchscreen, but a lot of it, I mean, you can't change this color. So it's like an orangey yellow sort of color. You cannot change that. You can adjust the brightness and all that sort of stuff, but for the most part, this is it. This is what you get. It does have radio, it does have Bluetooth, it even has a map/navigation sort of mode, but you have to have that system installed. Not fun. This is a personal one for me, but I'm sure a lot of other people out there would also agree that this steering wheel just looks very out of date. There's nothing special about this steering wheel. There's no buttons, there's nothing. I mean, in the newer models, yes, they do have buttons and you can control the radio via the steering wheel, and I do like those options, but it doesn't have that. It just looks very boring. And the interior is actually designed based off of the 2000 GT, which in some aspects I can see that, especially with this bit over here with that sort of arch sort of shape. I can see it, but it just looks very, like, over there is very bland and boring, like there's nothing going on, and it's there. As for space in this car, there's not a major amount of space. I mean, it's got 2 back seats, but they might as well not be there because there is hardly any space at all. It's basically just a behind the seat shelf. I mean, I'm only 5'8", so I'm small, right? But no one's getting their legs behind there. Not unless you have a baby. No one's getting their legs behind that. Not unless I moved my seat. And it is exactly the same story on the passenger side. So you can't really have people in the back. Not unless your passenger is very small or the person that's going in the back is also very small. So practicality wise, these cars are not very practical. They have got some boot space, and it is a fairly decent sized boot to be fair, but not really anything practical as such. Another thing as well is there is also a lot of reliability issues with these cars. There's a lot of issues which come especially when you start modifying, which is another reason why people don't like these cars. I'm not going to go through them all because there is an extensive list. However, one of the ones that I have experienced myself is the engine. They're very, very prone to getting rod knock and main bearings failing and complete engine failures. They do happen, and it does happen quite a bit. I've had, only still recently, I think a couple of months ago, had to have mine rebuilt because I got rod knock. And that was not fun, because that was then £4,000 that I had to pay to have the engine rebuilt. Another problem as well is behind there at the rear wheels. So as soon as you lower these cars, whether it be on coilovers, well, mainly just coilovers, but it then causes problems with the whole geometry of the car, and it messes up things, and basically you will break drive shafts. I personally have already been through 3 drive shafts where I've lowered the car and it's put the geometry off and everything's gone wrong, and then the drive shaft has essentially just snapped in half. Basically because of where it is, and then you lower it and it's like that, and it comes out a bit, and then it hasn't got as much grip, and then you full send it and it just snaps it clean off and causes problems. That's basically what it is. I've been through 3 of them. Where I am now in the lowerings, how much I've lowered it, which isn't really a lot, I think I've found the sweet spot. However, I want to go lower, and there are fixes for it. I just need to figure those out. Another issue that people have, this is I think reason 4, is the aftermarket support for these cars. Although it is very good, very extensive. I said in the last video, pretty much anything that you want to build this car into, you can build it. You can have anything you want for this car, but it will cost you an arm and a leg. I am a true believer that there is a thing called 86 tax, or BRZ tax, whatever you want to call it, because especially in the UK, I don't know so much about in the US or anywhere else in the world, but in the UK, it just seems that for some reason, all of the parts that you want to get for these cars, aftermarket parts, are just extortionately priced. If you look at the same part for one of these cars and then compare it to a 350Z, there is a massive price difference, and I do not understand why. The biggest culprit of that is the Tomei exhaust, which is my favourite exhaust, which is the one I want to get for this car, but I just can't because it's so expensive at the moment. As for why these parts are so expensive, that remains a mystery. Now, another thing as well is the fuel economy of these cars. It is not wonderful at all, really. Apparently, allegedly, based on what they say online, these cars get an average of about 36 miles per gallon. And that might be true based on if you are a sensible driver, but for me personally, someone who has a loud exhaust and likes going quick, my foot's to the floor pretty much all the time, and I'm making a lot of noise and driving fairly quickly. Not breaking the laws, but driving fairly quickly, which means that I am filling up fuel quite often, because having a 36 mile per gallon average, and then add on top the fact that you have a loud exhaust and you want to hear this loud exhaust and make a lot of noise, you're going to be filling up quite quickly, which I do. Now, don't get me wrong, I've said a lot of things about these cars which would make them not so desirable for people to buy. However, I do love these cars, and I've explained that in the previous video. Because although they have their quirks and they have their faults and they have their problems, they are still an amazing car. I've never had a car like this, and I don't think I ever will. Don't get me wrong, there are better cars out there. There are all sorts of better cars out there, but this car is just amazing how it is. There is so much that can be done to these cars in whatever sort of way you want, really. There's just a few of these little problems which are, in the grand scheme of things, kind of irrelevant and trivial things. Apart from the engine reliability, that is quite a big one. But for the most part, a lot of these things either can be fixed or are just trivial things which anger people and upset people. Some of them, even for myself, I do get a little bit riled up sometimes when I'm trying to explain to people that these cars should have come from factory with the turbo and, you know, and had more power, because there's other cars out there which came out the same year, which are also naturally aspirated and also have more power, but for some reason they just didn't want to put that much power in it. You know, it just seems to me how they make a car which they claim is driver focused and is a car that's meant to be enjoyed for driving, but then give it a slow engine. It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, don't let everything that I have just said in this video deter you from these cars. If you're willing to spend the money and put the effort in to fix these issues, or at least fix some of the issues, they are great cars. Now, I understand that these cars are not everyone's cup of tea. Not everybody likes these cars, and everyone has their own reasoning as to why they don't like them, and that is fair enough. I just think people need to, like, if you're thinking about getting one of these cars, give it a chance. I know there's a lot of money to spend for a chance, but give it a chance, or perhaps go and test drive one and drive it how you would normally drive it. You know, instead of just doing straight line pulls and things like that, get it on some back roads and give it some fucking twists and turns and whatever, because they are great cars and you can drift them. So there you have it. There is 5 reasons as to why people don't like these cars, or if you like, there are 5 reasons why you probably shouldn't get one of these cars. Either way, if you've watched this video and you're not really bothered about all these problems, then definitely I would say go ahead and get one of these cars. If you're thinking about getting one, just get one. They're great cars, you won't regret it. However, if this car is not for you, fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. And if this video has kind of confirmed whether, like, if you were contemplating getting one and this video has kind of confirmed that you definitely don't want to get one, again, also fair enough. I just didn't want to be one of those people that puts out a video that says, oh, these cars is amazing, they're great, they have no problems, blah, 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 blah. Because they definitely do. They have a lot of problems. They're not perfect. But that is a lot like most other cars out there. You just kind of got to weigh up what you do or don't like, if you know what I mean. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. Please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.